Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Patrick Bianducci, and I am the Divisional Vice President, Head of Professional Services here at PTC. Today's topic is delivering Industry 4.0 on time, on budget, and at scale. Over the next 30 minutes, we want to dive deeper into how manufacturers should be thinking about technology and their partner ecosystem to overcome two key barriers to achieving transformation at scale. The first barrier, the well-known pilot purgatory, where companies struggle to prove or to connect operational improvements to the P&L. And then the second barrier, when this issue is finally managed, the difficulties to rapidly overcome the IT and OT hurdles to scale to the transformation at the enterprise level. Specifically in this session, we'll explore how to overcome these challenges by talking about PTC's approach with solution and industrial IoT platform, where solutions enable proven, high-impact use cases out of the box, accelerate time to value, in conjunction with our leading IoT industrial platform that preserve the flexibility and extensibility you expect from an enterprise platform. That is critical to overcome the IT and OT challenges, including the infrastructure differences, the legacy softwares, and ensuring solutions are future-proof. Here to help us dive into best practices and share the story are Todd Earls from Eaton, alongside Rohit Kedia for the Global System Integrator LTI. Todd, Rohit, good morning. Could you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you, Patrick. And first and foremost, I appreciate being here. I really appreciate including Eaton in this conversation and happy to share our journey. For myself, I'm the Vice President of IT, Digital Design and Manufacturing. What that means at Eaton is my team is responsible for all of the systems and the processes, the applications across all of our engineering and our domain and our factories. From an engineering perspective, we have roughly 18 to 20,000 users of our engineering systems. And from a factory perspective, we have a little over 300 factories that we're responsible for. So Industry 4.0 and this whole journey that we're all on is extremely critical to our business. And I'm excited to share this story with you today.
Good, thanks, Todd. Rohit?
Thanks, Patrick. Hi, my name is Rohit Kedia. I'm Chief Business Officer responsible for the manufacturing business at LTI. I also run the digital transformation practice within the company. LTI is a digital transformation company with deep expertise in the manufacturing sector. We are about 36,000 consultants worldwide. One of the things that makes us unique is we are able to combine the breadth of digital capabilities with deep knowledge of the manufacturing domain. This is because LTI is part of Larsen & Toubro, which is one of the world's largest industrial conglomerates with about $22 billion in revenues. Of course, a partnership with PTC goes for a long time. We have invested a lot in building capabilities and COEs around PTC products and platforms. And very proud to say that for the work that we did at Eaton, LTI was also recognized by PTC as the Partner Network Award recipient for manufacturing transformation. Good to be here, Patrick. Good to be here with you, Todd. Looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you both, and thank you for being with me here. Todd, we are eager to hear your success story and the results of your transformation across Eaton. But maybe we can start from the beginning. What does digital transformation mean to Eaton as an organization?
So yeah, Patrick, it's a great question. So digital transformation means everything for Eaton. We know that we need to digitally transform in order to remain competitive in our markets. And unfortunately, Eaton recognized this pretty early on a few years ago in really looking at key stakeholder groups like customers and suppliers, internal employees, our factories, and the communities we serve, and really try to understand where digital technologies could really help us in those areas. And I'm really proud to say that I've been part of the Industry 4.0 journey for a few years now, partnered with a gentleman named Craig Sutton on the business side. And so Craig and I have really led this Industry 4.0 journey for Eaton. And we know, based on what we've already deployed and where we're headed, that there's significant cost savings. From a financial perspective, it's significant for Eaton to restructure and transform our operations. And not only from a cost savings, but really making those operations something where people want to work in. It's new technologies, it's a new environment, it's a safer environment. And so from a factory perspective, it's very critical to digitally transform. And we're already seeing the benefits of that, like I mentioned. Our target is about a 5 to 10% cost reduction within our operations. And based on the technologies and the use cases we've deployed, we're absolutely seeing the benefits thus far.
Well, a 5 to 10% cost reduction in manufacturing is quite massive in how you operate. I think manufacturers have been chasing those kinds of improvements for years with lean and other initiatives. It also sounds like, as an organization, Eaton understood the transformation impacts of Industry 4.0 and took a value-led approach as opposed to the traditional technology-led approach. And with that directive, can you tell us a bit how you initially went about this transformation from a technology perspective first?
Yeah, absolutely, Patrick. So our business is very diversified. We have multiple product lines, multiple business units, a diverse set of manufacturing environments. And so it was really something that we needed to understand. What did Industry 4.0 mean to Eaton? And it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, partially because it's new or relatively new. It's a little bit nebulous, but partially because there's so many things that you can do with data and connectivity that it's really hard to figure out where to start. And so from a voice of customer exercise, we really spanned all of our businesses and said, where is the value, to your point? We're not trying to push technology for the sake of technology, but what is the value we can capture in solving problems within our factories and potentially with these new technologies? And what we heard back from our businesses was really a key few set of capabilities where they knew that we could start and solve those problems and deliver real value. And so our approach was really to partner with somebody like PTC with the technology, partner with somebody like LTI with their capabilities and what they bring to the table from their experience working with the technologies, because we didn't know, right? We didn't have the skill sets in order to do this because we were just starting out. And what we figured out with this do it yourself, build it yourself approach on these technologies is that we needed to do this for each of the factories and each of the businesses. But that's really where we started a few years ago, is honing in on a set of capabilities, picking really good partners with PTC and LTI, and then going through this and that do-it-yourself, build-it-yourself approach that we had.
Understood, and quite traditional. We often see companies taking that approach first, especially those who are keen to prove the value that reside in those technologies. Now, the focus is on proving the technology, and it's a matter of how do you scale from there. So with those learnings, what did you change really in this initial phase?
Yeah. So what we figured out pretty quickly, I would say within a good 6 to 9 months of starting that journey, is it was really time and resource intensive. This the building out these solutions, it not only takes time to build them and build them in the right way to deliver the right value, to deliver the right user experience, but also to maintain those as well and moving forward. And across our 300 factories, we have roughly 1,500 unique plant applications in Eaton. And the last thing I wanted to do is really build 1,500 different point solutions on top of these digital technologies. So we knew that we needed to pivot and we needed to figure out how. And the how we did it is we really searched out a really good solution provider that delivered out of the box capabilities, and that was your team within PTC and delivering these capabilities. And what we figured out is that if we have standard capabilities that solve common problems across our different businesses, that's when we can scale. And you talked a little bit earlier about pilot purgatory and the ability to scale, and those were two absolute problems that we knew that we would run into and we wanted to avoid. And hence the reason why we picked these common use cases, which could get us out of pilot purgatory quickly. But then also, as long as we did it in a standardized way with these out-of-the-box solutions, we knew we could get to the ability to scale too and get over both of those hurdles that you referenced earlier.
Understood. And again, classical, but makes a lot of sense. Now, we've been working together for quite some time on this journey. And I also know that having executive alignment puts you in a much better place to standardize those specific use cases on the common technology platform across the enterprise. So traditionally, the manufacturers have, or the manufacturing site, I should say, has a lot of autonomy to do what they need to do to get the products out of the board. So how did you go about getting buy-in and alignment from each side?
No, it's a really good question, Patrick. And it really started with a multi-pronged approach. And we really needed to work with the factories to understand those use cases and what's in it for me for those factories. But along with that became the standardization of the capabilities that we're deploying out to all those different businesses. And the use cases that I'm talking about that we really started with, fall in line with your real-time production performance monitoring, the asset monitoring and utilization, and the connected work cell capabilities that your team has built. And to us, real-time production performance monitoring equates to OEE, or overall equipment effectiveness. And I'll tell you, within Eaton, across our different businesses, OEE was measured 100 different ways, let's say. And so we needed that strong top-down support to say we're gonna go across all these different businesses, and we're gonna implement standard technologies and standard processes, and we're gonna measure things in the same way. So as we look at our businesses holistically, we can understand how we're really performing across the board versus having 1,500 different ways of doing things. And so that was really critical for us. And RTPPM really delivers the visibility, real-time visibility into how our assets are performing, the uptime, the throughput, and the quality. And that really leads to asset monitoring and utilization, which is really the lead to predictive maintenance. And that's essentially, if you have pain points on what's driving your OEE to be lower, then let's figure out how to resolve those pain points. So let's figure out if there's a way to predict when things are going to happen to create downtime in your environment. And then for the connected work cell, it's something to have the digital work instructions and process control. We have a lot of businesses that are strong in assembly, and this is really helpful in generating a lot of value by having that capability in there. So again, kind of going back to the multi-pronged approach, it was really understanding the what's in it for me at the factory level, but then also having the really strong top-down governance in order to make sure that everybody understood the holistic value that Industry 4.0 is providing, and that delivers those standard processes and standard capabilities that we're deploying.
Makes sense, and I think that's a very sound approach to attack this complexity. To you, Rohit, how did you contribute in this journey and on the change from the initial phase to the scale-up phase that Todd just described?
Yeah, so LTI has had a long-standing relationship with Eaton that spans for more than a decade, and we work with Eaton in their front office operations, supply chain, and of course manufacturing. Our journey with Eaton started right when Todd and team were envisioning kind of the target solution. So we participated in Eaton's Manufacturing Council. We brought our experiences from other engagements and helped really shape the vision of what this solution should look like. We engaged with the business stakeholders, did a series of empathy workshops to uncover the pain points at the shop floor, which then led to identification of the standardized solutions that Todd was referring to around RTPPM, asset monitoring and utilization, and connected work cell. Of course, LTI with our overall digital and OT expertise helped realize and build out these solutions, as well as deployed them initially for pilot plants. One of the key that we kept in mind, and Todd's team and LTI team were always aligned on this, is that we ultimately are going to build out and design solutions to scale. So when we deployed them in these initial plants, we not only completed those deployments, but we built deployment playbooks that can be used by Todd's team to then scale these solutions across hundreds of plants, because ultimately the business value accumulates only when these solutions scale. So our engagement really then concluded with empowering Todd's team really to deploy these solutions across the entire ecosystem of Eaton's manufacturing operations. Yeah.
Understood. Thanks. I think it also talks to the necessary bridge between the needs of the business and the needs of the operations teams. And there has to be something for both of them. Otherwise, this doesn't go very far. Back to you, Todd. You spoke about how you approach the transformation from a governance perspective and from a technology perspective. Can you also talk about the importance of partners for your transformation?
Yeah, absolutely. So certainly technology and governance are critical, just like I mentioned. And while we had that, again, we didn't have the skill sets internally, right, to either understand how to build those applications on top of it, or really to manage this type of transformational program, and without external knowledge coming in as well. And so we figured out it was extremely critical to have a great technology provider and a great integrator along with us in this journey. And that was something, as mentioned, it was something we started right back in 2018, sitting down with Rohit, the LTI team, and everybody else there, and certainly sitting down with PTC and the technologies that you offer, and figuring out how to structure that three-legged stool, if you will, to make us successful within this program. And I'm really proud to say that we've gotten to scale. We've been able to do that, but we would not have been able to do that without PTC and LTI.
Thank you. It's indeed a journey, and it takes a village. Absolutely. Thank you, Todd. Right. I also wanted to congratulate you and your team for the award you mentioned earlier, the PTC Award for Transformation in Manufacturing Operations, for your work on this program with Eaton. For many years, PTC has enjoyed partnering with LTI, given both your deep domain of expertise in manufacturing, but also your shared commitments on helping manufacturers focus on uncovering the value of digital technologies. Now, from your perspective, Roy, but not as it relates to Eaton in particular, but in general, how would you say that partners can help accelerate the digital transformation?
Yeah, see, the role of integrators and partners like LTI is to make sure that the aggregate lessons accumulated through our experience are brought to bear in every engagement so that we improve the chance of success. These transformations are not just about deploying technology. These transformations are always about applying technology to create business outcome. As I mentioned, when it comes to manufacturing, LTI is sort of special because we can talk the business language because we are ourselves from an industrial and manufacturing conglomerate. Ultimately, though, what is required to realize the business value is affecting transformation around technology, around people, and around processes. Now you start with a powerful platform such as ThingWorx from PTC, but you still have to integrate that within a company's ecosystem. In this particular case, you're talking about shop floor control systems, you're talking about pick to light systems, you're talking about enterprise systems, and it's crucial for the systems integrator to bring the breadth of expertise required to have that platform operate in a client's ecosystem. But the second important thing is about people. No solution will realize business value unless it is adopted by those people. And this really requires you to view a transformation from the perspective of personas, not just from the perspective of technology. So like I mentioned earlier, conducting empathy workshops, doing plant walkthroughs, putting yourself in the shoes of the shop floor worker or supervisor, looking at their day in the life, and really thinking about this, that while we are deploying standardized solutions that can scale, how do those solutions really empower the people at the plant? I think all such transformation should be viewed from the perspective of empowering the people at the plant. In other words, solutions for them, not just solutions forced to them. So persona transformation through empathy and through designing the right target experiences is very important. Then finally, making sure that the solutions get integrated into the work processes and procedures. So in this case, we work with Eaton's stakeholders at the plant to see how their manual SOPs would be altered and how these solutions will really integrate in the way they do work. So I would say that ultimately bringing your collective experience from other engagements, but making sure that the technology is applied to get to business value and affecting transformation on the perspective of technology, people, and processes to really get to that outcome.
I can only agree. It takes all of that to be successful in the end, and it's quite a bit. Thank you for that, Rohit. Thank you also, Todd, for sharing your perspective on how achieving and accelerating the journey, but at the enterprise scale is a matter of both the governance model, the technology, but also the partner ecosystem. Now, I'm here to hear about the result of this transformation. Probably to you, Todd. What financial impact have you been able to achieve?
Yeah, Patrick. So it has been successful. There's no question. And as I mentioned, we're targeting 5 to 10%, cost out or cost avoidance within our plant. So making sure that our cost structure is lower based on the digital technologies that we're implementing that solve the problems that our factories have. And what we're clearly seeing is in our businesses that are capital intensive, they're starting with capabilities such as RTPPM or OEE, and then asset monitoring and utilization, which leads to predictive maintenance. And we're seeing double-digit improvements in OEE, and the same thing on the percent downtime that we have due to unplanned events as we layer in the asset monitoring utilization solution. That directly correlates to that 5 to 10% cost out and cost avoidance that we're looking for within Eaton. From a connected work cell perspective, the plants that we've deployed those solutions or that solution into those stands, we're seeing 100% adherence to standard operating procedures because we have that process control with those digital work instructions. which only improves our quality as we move forward. So again, all three solutions, we're seeing double-digit gains in the results of the implementations, and that leads directly to that 5 to 10% target that we have. So we are clearly seeing it on all three. And one thing I'd like to say on here too is for each of the different businesses, they will have those different problems to solve. And so we're not prescribing that they go through each of the three in any certain order, but really targeting where the value is within the business. And so, for example, in our assembly businesses, it's really focused on CWC, and then they will implement OEE and then AMU after that, and vice versa in our capital intensive businesses. So it's really a choose your own adventure, but essentially it's delivering that the highest amount of value as quickly as possible by those capabilities.
That talk experience, that's a phenomenal improvement as well. That's a true example of what Industry 4.0 can provide to any business. And I'm sure there are plenty in the audience that would like to enjoy the same for their own business. So thank you for sharing that. Now, in addition to the financial impact you just described, can you share a bit about the deployment and speak to the scale you've been able to get these results across Eaton?
Yeah, absolutely. So we got out of this pilot purgatory in 2019. That's when we really we had POC'd it in 2018. We had done a pilot in 2019, and then quickly exited there to the do-it-yourself model that we had talked about earlier. And then once we came to these standard technologies, we could move much quicker. So in 2020, well, we had a little bit higher aspirations, but there was this thing called a pandemic. During that time, that slowed us a little bit down in a quarter. We were still able to deploy 5 to 10 factories by the end of 2020. At the end of this year, we'll be around 25 factories, and we're targeting at the end of 2022 around 50 factories. And then Craig Sutton, who I mentioned earlier, has very much has a target to get 80% of our Eaton factories on these digital solutions within the next 3 years. So clearly, we're proving out the scale right now from 5 to 25 to 50, but we certainly have a ramp to go. But we're seeing that we are fully capable of doing it with the solutions that we put in.
That speaks loud about transformation at scale. I'm underlining at scale across the enterprise. That's really quite impressive for both you, Eaton, and LTI. Now, with such great achievements to date and this exciting journey, where do you go from there? What are the next steps in this digital transformation journey?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's never ending, right? And one of the things that we know in order to continue to have this exponential value that Industry 4.0 creates is we want to layer in more and more technologies or more and more capabilities, and in a way that continues to build on that ecosystem that we're putting into the factories. And so, for example, asset monitoring utilization is great because it takes sensors, real-time data flows, alerts when something is out of range, and that has delivered the value that I mentioned before. But we want to layer on predictivity on top of it. So having a true predictive maintenance solution, based on that data that's already flowing into ThingWorx, into that AMU module, is something we're certainly looking at. From another technology, we're calling it a command center, but essentially having the ability to view any data in any factory anywhere, for all of that data coming through ThingWorx and other data sources as well, but having that single visual where people can really drill down and see real time what's happening in any factory across the board is something we're working on. And then the last one I would say is really using VR/AR for single use cases like training, but then also really integrating that right into the capabilities of like Connected Work Cell, where the digital work instructions can have an augmented user experience where it really guides operators along, especially during those complex assembly instructions that may or may not get built once every month or 2 months, depending on the demand coming in. So those are some of the key areas that we're focused on, leveraging other capabilities, other technologies, but certainly doing that within that digitally connected ecosystem and building on the solutions we put out there. So those are just a few examples that we're working on today, connected into everything that we're doing with.
That sounds really exciting, and with more to come. So that's really great. So thank you, Todd, and thank you for Roy for sharing your experience with the audience. Now, let's take a question that came online to round this session. Maybe for you, Rohit, what advice or primary advice would you give to the people in the audience based on your experience with LTI that will help them achieve transformation at scale?
Yeah, so look, in recent years, there has been so much advancement and therefore also consequently so much jargon about Industry 4.0 technology ecosystem that sometimes companies can get really lost in this vast ocean. I think it's very important to recognize that ultimately all digital solutions are about empowering people. So I mentioned it earlier, but if transformations are viewed from the perspective of empowering the people and making their work better, then I think it channelizes all of the possibilities into solutions that work. One of the things that I think was key to success at Eaton is focusing on a few things, a few use cases which have wide applicability, which are emblematic of certain pain points within the organization, but then really doing them really, really well, right? So focusing on a few things and doing them really well. Third thing I would say is business value equals scale, right? Even if you have 300 plants and you can't scale solutions, no matter how good they are, you're not going to recognize business value. So how do you design a program that is built to scale? In this case, for example, the work that Todd's team did in understanding the wide applicability of the use cases, the work that LTI team did building scalability into the solutions by creating deployment playbooks and enabling deployment to happen at scale. So build to scale, perhaps the third thing. And the final thing I would say is every enterprise is a complex ecosystem, often built over decades of mergers and acquisitions. So you will always see diversity of a landscape where such solutions have to integrate. In Industry 4.0, you're probably talking about extremely diverse OT systems. So how do you make sure that your program is designed to deal with that complexity? You cannot expect an ideal environment in which these solutions have to operate. All of the work that LTI team did in doing the plant walkthroughs and making sure that even though we have standardized solution, they can fit into a diverse ecosystem, bringing the blend of OT, IT, enterprise system skills into the same team to deal with that complexity. So I think one has to be very, very clear about the environment in which the solutions have to operate. That's what I would say, Patrick.
Thank you. And that speaks both experience and wisdom, I think. So based on my also personal experience in this business. So thank you again, Rohit, and thank you, Todd. We are now nearing the end of the session. What we have heard from you two are two key takeaways. The first is that to ensure financial impact, companies need to focus on high impact use cases that creates transparency into the performance of the physical assets, the workforce, and the quality across, as you said, the diverse enterprise. And second is that to overcome the scale hurdles, a company needs to take a standardized approach that accelerates time to value without compromising the needed flexibility and agility of platforms that will accommodate what you mentioned about the legacy IT and OT systems around with minimal disruption to the business. And of course, the people that will actually use the system in production. So we thank you for your time and attention and hope you find this session to be valuable. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Patrick.
Patrick.
Thank you too. It's a partnership.